Welcome, everyone. You're listening to How We Heal the podcast. I'm Noel, medical intuitive, your host. Our sponsor is the medicinebuddhawithin.com, intuitive training for all. Check out their website and be registered to be invited to all the upcoming trainings. Now let's begin our show. Welcome to How We Heal the podcast. This is Noel. Today, my guest is Father Frank Alagna, who is a very amazing patron of many groups of people who need support and solace and sustenance and stability. He was the champion created the Ulster Immigrant Defense Network, which has become kind of a guidepost for an organization that helps immigrants and protects them. And Kingston, the city of Kingston, also joined him in this journey, and a lot of other organizations. He's been an active member of the community that I'm part of for at least 50 years. I asked him at the beginning of today about his 50th anniversary of ordination, and that was, you said, about 5 years ago, correct?
Yes.
So I missed that boat on that. So I want to welcome you again. What this podcast tries to bring to the community that it serves are stories of ways that our lives evolved and allowed us to be who we are and to bring our true calling. So welcome, Father Frank.
Thank you, Kier. Where would you like me to begin?
I would love to start in the beginning, but we've had an opportunity to talk about your story, so I can kind of bring the chapters in. So in the beginning, you were a very young man going to church before school.
Right.
Yeah, so tell us about that. That's an unusual circumstance, I think.
Well, I grew up and lived in Brooklyn in a very Italian neighborhood. The center of the community was the local church, Catholic Church, St. Bernadette's. And from the age of 7, I attended daily Mass as a way of starting my day. I don't know why I did that, but I was just moved to do that. The church was beautiful. It was a very peaceful place to begin the day. And that continued.
So did you do that just ongoing, or that was just a short period of your life?
No, I began at the age of 7 and continued attending daily Mass to the point where I entered the seminary.
How old were you when you entered the seminary?
I had just come to the end of high school. And it was all rather convenient because the church was only one city block away.
That was convenient. Were there other churches to choose from, or that was the one because your family attended it?
That was the parish that my family was connected with. But yes, There were, in that part of Brooklyn, there were churches in many, many places. I could have walked to another one, but it would have been further away.
Okay, so that's really fruitful. And I remember you told me you went there by yourself. None of your siblings went on this quick early morning journey to a Mass.
Right. I was the youngest of 3 children. The next sibling was 8 years older than I, so I was late to the game. Basically, they were leaving the house when I was in my grade school years. So it was something I did. The family didn't do that. The family went to Mass on Sundays.
And did anyone know you were going every morning? Did your family know?
Oh, yeah, because when I came home, my mother would give me breakfast, and the family knew that I did that.
It's a very unusual child to do that, in my opinion. Quite extraordinary. So you entered the seminary, and you became a Catholic priest, correct?
Yes, a Maryknoll priest. Maryknoll is a community of priests and brothers and nuns who work overseas, work internationally. And so I decided.
And I remember you were saying, we talked about that. Okay. You entered the Maryknoll
seminary.
You became someone who wanted to go overseas. Did you go overseas?
Yes, my first assignment after ordination was to promotion and development in Maryknoll Seattle House, which covered the Northwest for fundraising and vocational work. I was there for 2 years and then was assigned to Hong Kong.
And this part of your life and your journey as a priest did give you inspiration to start in the future? Because the thing that you've developed in your more mature years for the Immigrant Defense Network, has that come out of some of these journeys you made, especially to, the Far East?
Well, interestingly enough, my first working assignment in Hong Kong as I was studying Chinese was to be involved with refugees from mainland China. The British government at the time established what they called resettlement estates. They provided housing and essentials and schools and the like for chunks of that population. And Maryknoll came to be responsible for a number of those resettlement estates. So the church was also present in providing care and support for those new arrivals to Hong Kong from mainland China.
So explain to us and myself also, what is the politics, what was going on that they left mainland China?
Well, it was rather desperate for people. Chairman Mao was the head of state, and it was difficult for people to make their lives there for any number of reasons.
So, yes, desperate times.
In fact, the bishop who ordained me a priest, James Edward Walsh, had been released the summer before my ordination after having spent 15 years in a Chinese prison.
Well, do you know what he was in prison for?
Well, he was accused of being an agent of a foreign state.
That's tough. That's a tough situation. And of course, there was no support for him to return to his country of origin. He was just sent to prison.
No, he was just arrested and tried and sent to prison.
It sounds a little familiar, unfortunately, to some of the circumstances we hear about now. So you were there, and if you're doing that work, you're basically helping people find a way to create a home, a temporary home. Were you giving them education also at this time?
Yes. In these resettlement estates, Maryknoll or whatever community was caring for a particular estate would operate a school for children. So it was kind of a total care, if you will, program that the British government was able to effect for these immigrants.
And where were you assigned after this post?
Well, after I spent 3 years there, and then I came back to the States to study psychology at the University of Connecticut and get my PhD in psychology.
So what made you decide to go and get a PhD in psychology?
I just thought that I wanted to professionalize myself in an area other than theology, and I was always interested in human relationships and people's needs in that area of their lives, and so I came back and did my graduate work.
Wow, so you're still maintaining a full professional life as a priest?
Yes.
Doing creating those possibilities. Did you bring your PhD degree into the priesthood and start to counsel people?
Well, at the end of my after I'd secured my degree, I at that point left Maryknoll and joined the Episcopal Church.
Right, and that was based on personal decisions. In the other areas of your life, a relationship, a partnership.
Right.
And being able to do that. And so in the Episcopalian Church, you were now an active priest, and were you counseling also and trying to help people very intimately?
Yes, I was attached to Christ and St. Stephen's Church on the Upper West Side as an associate priest, and I myself and another priest and a couple of social workers began a counseling and psychotherapy center that was housed on church property. And I did that, as well as was employed by an employee assistance programming firm on Wall Street.
So you just grew the role. You grew your involvement. You grew your role. And it sounds like you didn't question any of this. You just kept moving to the next level of adding this work.
Well,
did you have visions? Tell us why you went that direction. And when we make choices
once I left Maryknoll, I needed to support myself. And so I supported myself via my psychological professionalization and had some clients at the church. And also soon after that, or a few years after that, I guess, I began a private business, and a consultants for international living, which provided psychological support services to business families expatriating and repatriating. And my first client was AT&T, and then I had several other clients. And I built a team of psychologists and psychological professionals, and we provided programs here in the States for families anticipating expatriation, and then we traveled around the globe and put on workshops for business families who were repatriating at that time.
So you
and
were, yeah. Yeah, so
did
you
that.
were really in a profession, both profession. One was, I would say, when a lay person thinks of someone who's a priest or a not, someone who's offered that work, I don't think of that as a profession. We all kind of think, oh, it's a calling,
It's a
it's a
vocation,
calling.
right? Yeah,
Like you got a phone call from God.
my priesthood has always been a vocation for me, not a profession, and I relate to it from that kind of a place internally. So during the 90s, I was first an associate priest in at Christ and St. Stephen's. Then I moved up here to the Hudson Valley and became the vicar of St. Margaret's in Statsburg, an Episcopal church in Statsburg. I was there for 18 years of the 1900s. I was also had this business going, and I had still had a private practice on 57th Street in Manhattan. So I was
Wow.
moving around a lot.
You spread yourself wide.
So I was very busy. I had to make sure when I stood in front of people to remember which hat I was wearing.
Don't talk psychology when you're doing a sermon,
Right.
unless you need to, it's appropriate.
Yeah. So yeah, it just kind of happened. The opportunities presented themselves, and I took advantage of the opportunities. AT&T approached me, and so I put that together. And the parish here was in need of a priest, and it's only 15 minutes away from my home, and so I took that on.
And so
I was
there it
busy,
is, the whole package.
right? And that
Yeah.
continued to 2000.
And now you joined. Is that when you start working in Kingston or no?
I started working in Kingston in 2010, I guess it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're still acting, you still have a private practice as a psychologist?
No, I stopped that in the year 2000. I stopped my international consulting business in the year 2000 and pulled together a more reasonable life.
So this is, we're going to date each other. I'm in my, upper 60s. You're a
You're a
little
young
older.
woman.
So this is when you're trying to find a more balanced life, right? You don't have that humongous amount of energy. I'm realizing that about me.
Uh-huh.
And so you started to concentrate more on your bay. So when you were moved, you started in Kingston and you were surrounded by people who I believe you had a pretty large immigrant population when you joined the Kingston Church.
Yeah, when I became the rector of Holy Cross Santa Cruz, it was a parish that was multicultural and bilingual, and I was there, and there was a Spanish-speaking priest who was also there. We succeeded, the parish had a number of years of wanting to embrace that identity as a multicultural, bilingual parish. We were the second iteration of that, and we did that together for, I guess it was 12 or 13 years. And one of the things I did when I went there was to invite the congregation it was kind of like two congregations that were using the same building. And I invited both congregations to become one in identifying as one congregation that ordinarily worships in two languages, but otherwise embraces together the other areas of church life, like church leadership and outreach to the community and the like. So wonderfully, the congregation from both expressions of it, Spanish and English speaking, said, yeah, they're willing to go that way. And we spent the 12 years I was there kind of reinforcing that unity and that togetherness and that being one church in the wider community.
That's interesting. So were your sermons only in English and then translated? Or
I don't speak Spanish, though I tried to learn it. And I tried to learn it when I was too old to learn a new language. But there was a Spanish priest working with me, and together we made it happen and worked together. And the congregation embraced that change over time and came to know each other and care for each other and love each other in the ways that are
well,
most
it
important.
makes sense if you're going to create a community, to make a single community. I mean,
Right.
that's just great sensibility. So when did the Ulster Immigrant Defense Network happen? When did that become
In
born?
After the 2016 election, I had a number of experiences with congregants that one was that we were at a vestry meeting, a leadership meeting, parish leadership meeting, and one of our Latino leaders told me a story about his nephew coming home from school that day and telling his mother that he wasn't going to go to school tomorrow. As a matter of fact, he was never going to return to school again. And when his mother pressed him, he said that, as to why, he said that afternoon a number of his peers had cornered him in the hallway of the school and said hateful things to him, like he didn't belong there, that soon he would be sent back to where he came from, and just began to mouth the ugliness of the Trump administration. And so I listened to that, and it kind of really touched me and moved me. And then I found myself 2 weeks later having to tell our Latino congregants that they needed to fill out documents that would entrust their children to someone they felt comfortable with should they not return home from school that day,
Wow.
from work that day.
That's hard. How did people respond to that?
Well, it was horrible for them to hear, and it was really horrible for me to have to say this or share this kind of message with people I loved and cared about.
Yeah, what a terrible moment. I would be
So,
crying as a parent. Like,
yeah,
what are you
you know,
talking about?
exactly.
And so you said you were moved, you were touched by this.
And so the next step I took towards the end of 2016 was to invite the clergy of Kingston, the interfaith clergy, to join with me in petitioning the Kingston Common Council to declare Kingston a sanctuary city. And at their December meeting, I was told later that there were more people at this meeting than in the whole history of the Common Council. So there was a lot of
Wow.
feeling in the wider community about this issue. And then in the January meeting, the Common Council passed a memorializing resolution declaring Kingston a sanctuary city. That was in January. And at the beginning of February, I was thinking, well, if Kingston can declare itself a sanctuary, maybe houses of worship in Kingston could operationalize what we understood as traditional sanctuary at the time, where if someone was being pursued for those kinds of reasons, they could take safe refuge in a church or a synagogue or a temple and be safe.
Did it work back then and that during that
Back
term?
back then, I don't think the federal government wanted the optics of its agents breaking into churches, and so the old kind of understanding of sanctuary was still in the air and in place. And then I also put out a call to the wider community to identify whether or not they were willing to take a sanctuary-seeking individual into their home, because you couldn't keep living in a church for a long
Right,
period of
right.
time.
It's very hard to do.
Yeah, and a number of families, said that they would do that. So we were setting up a system to operationalize traditional sanctuary. At the end of January, I attended a town hall meeting at which John Faso, the then Republican representative in Ulster County, was a no-show, and somebody asked me to say something. So at the end of my remarks, I said that tomorrow the clergy would be meeting at Holy Cross on a cruise to begin to roll out a plan for traditional sanctuary. And I said to the folks, must have been about 600 people at this
Wow. Wow.
no-show meeting. I said, if you want to come and listen in on that, you're more than welcome. If you want to bring any ideas to that, please do. And so the next day, that was on Friday, and so on Saturday morning, I was getting ready to welcome about 20 or 25 clergy people, and the room at Holy Cross was filled with 140 people who came from all over the county.
Wow.
So there was a lot of feeling about this and a lot of concern in the widest sense of the community. And my simple idea of implementing traditional sanctuary began to morph and expand and grow as people began to share their ideas of what we could do to increase safety for at that time it was only undocumented neighbors. And at that meeting, the Ulster Immigrant Defense Network was born. At the end of the meeting, I asked people to fill out pieces of paper in which they gave me their contact information. And at the end of the meeting, I found myself standing there with a pile of papers and contact information, thinking to myself, well, what the hell am I going to do with this? And I'll always remember this moment, someone came up to me and said, Father, I'll take that. I'll take care of that.
Good.
Without even my asking. And that has been the response to every need that we've kind of surfaced in these 9 years. People from the community who have skilled and talented and resourceful have stepped up and said, let me take care of that. And we have this thing, I see it as an experience of grace, of God acting in the broadest sense and in the widest sense in the community, bringing people, moving them to make happen something that is essential right now.
Yeah.
And so presently,
it's such a heartfelt movement.
Yeah.
I don't think it wasn't like you wrote it out on a piece of paper. I'm making
No,
a plan.
no, I had no idea this was going to happen. It just happened. And, right now we have about 400 volunteers. And we provide care to over 1,000 families a month. We recently, after this election, about 14 attorneys stepped forward to offer pro bono services to the people in need right now. And again, that just happened. Just people are responding, bringing their abilities and talents and resourcefulness to provide care and service of different kinds.
Well, you touched on something that, a central core issue we all have, which is humanity.
Right.
A conscience. So are you still very involved in the services that are being offered? I'm
still involved with U.I.D.N. U.I.D.N. is almost all volunteers except for 2 part-time caseworkers, part-time fundraiser. We just hired an executive director who is an immigration attorney, who is from the community, who has lived the experience of the people that we are serving. He came as a child from Peru and lived in an undocumented family for a while and eventually got what he needed to be a citizen.
So does this organization, U.I.D.N., is it an open place for anyone, no matter what your religious interest?
Oh, yeah.
We just want you to come and support us and help people. Come and help.
Right. We have people who come from various parts and different parts of the widest faith community, and we have people who don't identify as people of faith. And they've come together with passion and commitment and dedication and have become a community among themselves,
It's a human community.
A human community.
Human.
And some of the folks have been at it for the whole 9 years. And
wow. Well, what a great
going strong. I just love them. They're just
So I feel that, what an amazing program for people that all of us know someone who's going to have an event that right now is just waiting around the corner. You and I talked about what it's like now that if you show up for an appointment, you can be, you have no clue what's going to happen. You have a real appointment for a check-in that you've done for years, maybe when we had a different administration, and now you go and it's like the Wild West of unknowns and terrifying.
Right. Yeah.
We are all responsible for each other. That's my public announcement about my political opinion. Mm-hmm. At an election, you're all struggling, we're all suffering, we should help each other. And you and I talked about...
We're not all suffering. Those who have never suffered are still not suffering.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you're telling me this.
The oligarchs don't suffer.
Oh, I have my own viewpoint. I think the suffering of that particular group that may or may not continue on is very long in duration as it does come. It may not come now, but I think when it does, it will be long in duration. We're meeting on this equal footing of what does it mean to be a human being? What do we do with our voice? What do we do with our energy? I asked you to be on the podcast and I had a little mental hesitation because you're a priest. And I do say this is not about race, politics, or religion, or money. And under the heading of a calling or a not, a vocation we have in our lives, priesthood being one. You're bringing your heart to this work. So I can't say anyone is disqualified from speaking about their beliefs. And you're not here to tell anyone to become an Episcopalian, nor am I to tell anyone to meet me at the Buddhist monastery. We want to invite people to bring energy to help things heal. I want to say that's what I'd like to invite anyone listening to do. So, Father Frank, if I look you up online and I might even find an email or a phone number, are you open to people communicating with you who are interested in either being of service or having a chat with you, who are maybe on the fence about their beliefs about immigration, anything like that on the table for anyone?
I'm always open to listening to people and sharing with them
I love
as I'm
that.
able to share with them. There's something you said that I want to relate to, and that was U.I.D.N. is not denominational, is not religious in itself. I mentioned before that at the beginning, I had reached out to the community to see, if there were families that were willing to make their homes sanctuaries. And I had a meeting of people from the community, about 24 families, stepped forward initially to make themselves available in this way. And I explained to them the risk involved in doing that, in that a church could be a sanctuary and not suffer any repercussions from that. But if a family took an individual into their homes to give them shelter or hide them in some way, the law could really take them over the coals. They would be considered participants in criminal activity. And so after I explained that, I said, you're free. You came with a desire to do this, but, having heard the risks involved, I certainly would understand if a family at the table was not ready to do that, and that would be okay. And so then I went around the room and said, what do you want to do? And the Jewish people at the table, and there were some Jewish families represented at the table, said, this is our turn to give back as did the righteous during the Holocaust. Christians at the table said this is what it means to be a disciple of Jesus. Those with no particular religious affiliation or background said, our humanity compels us to respond in this way.
Wow.
And I'll always remember that meeting. It was like being in the company of saints. It was just a beautiful get together.
Wow. Living saints. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I don't check my faith at the door, but I'm not involved in this to proselytize or anything like that. I think
I get it. You're talking to me.
I certainly will engage people who, at the level of faith, if they want to initiate that conversation, I'm happy to do that with them. And some people have, in my time at Holy Cross, some people have joined the church because of the heart that is throbbing in that space. So, God works in many ways. Some are mysterious, and some. I didn't begin U.I.D.N. It just kind of happened.
Well, you planted the seed, right? You planted the seed. It was ready to happen. It was ready for blossoming. Yeah.
And right now the wider community is really engaged even more because of the ugliness and the cruelty that is being manifest and directed to human beings by others who you would hope had a conscience but obviously don't, and hope had some connection with their humanity but obviously don't, because they
No.
don't see how you can be a sentient human being and have any conscience at all and participate in this cruelty and this injustice and this
Well,
disgust.
it strikes me. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. It strikes me as a magnification of this frail ego, that I'm not okay. I don't like who I am. I actually think I'm not worthy of anything. And so now I'm going to blast my way through life. Destroying things and the pain I cause will make me feel somewhat alive and powerful. So yeah, it's a very sad time, but a great organization, and people can donate money, correct? They need
Yes,
funds. Okay.
they can visit the website and to learn about U.I.D.N, the Ulster Immigrant Defense Network, and they can learn how they can participate if they're interested in doing that, how they can volunteer or how they can make a donation in whatever way, they're able to support this endeavor.
Tell
Well,
me about your book.
I wanted to leave something to the people I knew and loved and cared about, so I thought I would take the last 3 years of my sermons for each Sunday and put them in a book, and so that it'd be available. And so it was published at the beginning of this year. I'm thinking of publishing another book since
This one.
it didn't take a lot of work. I had somebody who did it for me, and Amazon did it, and it kind of just happened easily. This one is I have, since the last election, each Sunday, I've tried to raise a prophetic voice in terms of what is going on by the actions of this administration. So each of my sermons since, I guess, last November, relates to the present evil going on. And I'm thinking of entitling this book of sermons as Deliver Us from Evil.
That's powerful and direct. Are you still giving a sermon at your church?
No, now I'm a free-range priest. I move from parish to parish. I supply on Sundays at parishes either that don't have a permanent priest or where a priest is sick or on vacation or the like. So
right, and I saw you at an event for democracy where you spoke.
Yeah.
You speak from the heart. You live from your heart. You bring this joy to people, giving them hope. So what are the good things? What's possible that we can look forward to, in your view right now, that, this goodness of the world might set the table a little differently? Is there any change in that direction? Do you see it?
Well, what I see is the ugliness becoming more intense and the cruelty becoming more intense, and the people willing to serve that, they're coming together to participate in one way or another. Some just for the ICE agents who are joining because they get a $50,000, start bonus. But I also experience within what I call the healthier part of the community, the human community here in the States, a waking up, and sometimes it takes a longer time than you would hope and expect, but to waking up to just how disgusting this is. To allow it to happen on our watch is something that keeps me awake at night,
Yeah.
And so, with U.I.D.N, people, and, we're one organization, but there are any number all over the country, and people are participating and mobilizing and resisting in different ways. I'm heartened by the fact that at least some of the judicial system is pushing back in some ways and not allowing to happen some of the things that he has dictated. But my issue and what keeps me up awake at night is during this time of greater and greater uncertainty that there are individual human beings and families that are being traumatized and in pain. And so part of our effort is, at least in the area that we're serving, to attend to the pain that is being inflicted on the people that we know as our neighbors, and to live in some solidarity with them, providing whatever care we can, even though that at times is limited because we have no control over, the actions of ICE and those federal agents and the like. I would, I've said, I think in one of my sermons, if a violent insurrection on January 6th could produce heroes as far as this administration is concerned, why not a nonviolent insurrection,
Right.
And
not a bad idea.
And I guess I'm looking for, I know there's Indivisible, that group is nationwide.
Yeah.
I guess I'm looking for some leaders or leader to emerge who will be the voice of that resistance and galvanize people and move us to a place where we simply say, no, this is not going to happen. You're going to have to take us if you're going to take these people.
Right. And then, you can't lock us all up.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
I guess I could deport us to Sudan or the like.
So how far does it have to go?
Detention centers everywhere, and that's a business now that the government, our tax dollars are funding. I mean, I have ideas. I don't know if they have any possibility of being, expressed or put into action, but I would be for a tax revolt in which you say we're not going to send our federal taxes in. We're going to send our.
This is not a new idea to me.
Well, you need someone who will be that kind. If I weren't 80 years old, and
I don't know, we could squeeze a little more out of you, Father Frank.
well, I'm happy to have it squeezed out of me, but we need to have and what's disappointing is that our even the political leaders who are on the right side of this still haven't galvanized in any way. They haven't proposed solutions like this and made them happen, even if they can't get it passed through the legislature. Screw the
I
legislature.
agree. There should still be the voice.
There still
Yeah.
be the voice, and there should be the actions, and we should be willing to break the law when the law is cruel.
Right, right.
When the law violates our humanity and our conscience, we should be prepared to break the law and take the consequences of that. Our democratic leaders, some are more vocal than others, but nobody, there's not enough. There's not enough resistance at that level.
Not yet. And I like the word you use, galvanized. The wake up call is now. It rang, months ago, and time is running out. It just is.
Right.
And once we get to a tipping point, this will be generations before we get back to anything that resembles humanity. It's a hard time, but your work, your voice, your heartfelt caring for humans, it's so important. It's so valuable right now. Yeah. What happened? We're all immigrants. Don't we remember?
Well,
Every single person in this country, except the natives, are immigrants.
We've been co-opted by the American myths, and we actually believe them as if they're true. Like we believe we live in a democracy. We haven't lived in a democracy since the foundation of this nation.
Not a true democracy.
Not a true democracy.
Yeah.
And the oligarchs have always been in power, and they just have more and more resources and more power. And so we don't, this isn't the greatest country in the world if you're going to measure greatness in terms of human compassion and the most important elements of our humanity. Trump's latest thing of having a department not of defense but of war is a statement about who we've been for the longest time.
Yeah, we were always the insurrectionists and the people who took countries away from them, their own people.
Yeah. And we support, we devastated countries and supported dictators for economic hegemony in the world.
Absolutely.
So cut the bullshit. And, a different tomorrow will only happen if we have an actual reflection on the moral turpitude in which we lived and basked in and taken delight from, up to this point. It's not a matter of going back to the way things were. It's a matter of beginning to actually reflect on the way things were. This has always been a slave nation and still is a slave nation.
Yeah, there's an incredible book, not yours and not mine, but by Mary Trump that was written after the first term, and it talks about the underpinnings of racism in this country. We're just, we're still living that reality, that nightmare. It's terrifying to read, but very educational, incredibly well researched. I recommend it to anyone.
For a family to live today, the minimum wage for those employed in the family has to be somewhere between $30 and $40 an hour. And we think we've succeeded in raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. All that means is that we continue to confirm having a slave class.
Yeah, so yes, a lower class of people who never can buy a home or be stable financially.
Or spend time with their kids.
Right, and they're working 3 jobs to survive.
Working to
Yes.
survive. That's our reality. So until
Absolutely.
we really look at who we are and who we've been, I'd be very careful about wanting to go back to what we were before Trump. Because what we were before Trump has gotten us where we are now.
That individual is just the spearhead of the entire, the ideology that's massively ingrained, or it wouldn't have happened. So on that happy note, we are inviting you, everyone who listened, to, go to the website, U.I.D.N, contribute, volunteer time, volunteer caring and support, look up Father Frank Alagna and speak to him. CNN listening, please invite him on CNN to talk about this piece where we shouldn't look, if we're going to look to be what we were before this administration. We're missing the point. That's a voice I'd love to hear in a big way, in massive ways on media. I feel like we elevate the conversation way above the politics, which is a great place to be if you have a conscience, to a place of a heart. We have hearts. We are living and breathing. We need each other. We need to support each other. Thank you, Father Frank.
Thank you, Kira.
Thank you so much for doing this.
We want to thank the following people: Jennifer Maidman for original music. Listen to her on iTunes and Spotify. True English of Upstate Podcast Studio for sound and recording engineering. And all our executive producers. See you next time.